You're watching Drakewing Gaming. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, Neri here from Drakewing Gaming. So if you know me on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Far Beyond the World. So we just got introduced to Regera last episode. Everybody loves her, big battle mommy. She's awesome. But anyway, guys, please sit back and enjoy for the next 18 minutes while I entertain you, and let's jump right in. Alarm saying you're up, and let's go. Okay. She points to me, causing the pudgy female to scoff. Your failings are your own, little girl. Rennick's transgressions are far more pressing than... Failings? Regera stands up, towering over the gathered, and Aldris shifts slightly. I would invite you to repeat that, so that we could have a different conversation followed by a funeral. Are you threatening an elder at a feasting ground? I'm reminding a member of our tribe that if they question honor and position of another wolf, the insulted party can demand satisfaction, as is our custom. Perhaps you should have stuck to your boycott, and leave this clearly uninteresting matter to us. The chief quips mockingly, only aggravating the hag further. I will not be kept away from this debriefing by your machinations. We should have convened at the villa. Why? The chief shrugs. That's my private home. The tribe's meeting place is here. Anything Regera has to say concerns the tribe. You deciding not to attend the feast because of the human is your problem, not mine. I'm here then, aren't I? The pudgy female scoffs, to which Vithir flushes his brows. Unfortunately. Very well then, I'll have them set up the elder's table. With a single paw wave, the chief gestures towards the bunnies, who nod in affirmation, but before they take a single step, the annoying screeching continues. No, I won't be sitting far away from earshot. Well, I'm afraid there's simply no space here. He states plainly as Regera takes her spot again. I see 2 empty seats. This one's Varissa's. Should she join us between her duties at the Den of Vigil. As for Delrun's spot, it is bad luck to take a seat of a missing alpha. Vithir responds nonchalantly, but it's hard not to notice the slight satisfaction he draws from refusing her a spot. Not sure if it's bullshit or real custom, but I'm glad she's not sitting with us. And the human can do what he's meant to do and serve. He's a guest at our table, not a servant. A guest? Aldris shrieks in an unnatural tone, causing Regera to turn to her with an irritated sneer. Speaking truthfully, I don't think you'd fit between us anyway. The female makes a clear jab at Aldris's voluptuous figure, and I chuckle discreetly. I wouldn't say voluptuous. I wouldn't use that word to describe Aldris at all. Maybe volleyball-esque. I'm in no mood to huddle at my own table after nearly 3 weeks in the field. Quite right. The chief nods in agreement, but the entitled female only crosses her arms in defiance. I'll stand, then. Do as you please, as long as you do it in silence. He shrugs indifferently, clearly losing interest in verbal spars with that vile woman. Seeing that their leader began piling up his plate, the other wolves help themselves to whatever they please. Considering my previous waiter is separated from me by an overgrown and well-endowed wall of a she-wolf, I decide to help myself as well. I reach for some roasted veg, and what I assume are chickens or pheasants or whatever, when to my surprise, Regera beats me to it. He holds up the plate above my own, nodding towards the knife and fork, clearly expecting me to grab whatever I please. I nod in gratitude and take some root vegetables along with a nice piece of grilled breast. Where's your gallant champion? Vithir asks out loud, looking mockingly at Aldris, while licking his fingers after stacking his plate high with various meats. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw you on your own. He's fetching Enelle. I love Enelle. The female huffs, still standing challengingly in front of our table. Ah, I see you intend to put on a spectacle again. I intend to ensure our proper governance in the face of these mounting crises. And speaking of spectacles and mounting crises... The brown male snorts and bops his glass in a direction where he just spotted Dran. He leads Enelle, pulling her by the rim of her shawl as if she were a dog, the frail female barely able to keep up with his pace. What a massive asshole. I'm sorry I took so long. She kept stopping every few paces. The male barely wheezes out, almost as if he was about to pass out. Enelle, on the other hand, corrects her dress, not a bead of sweat on her body. Not that that would justify his disgusting treatment anyway. My, the weather is quite lovely tonight, isn't it? Yes, you've said it at least 10 times already. Dran snarls at her in annoyance, while the female takes an idle look across the surrounding tables. Tell me, why are we here again? We've come to the feast because Regera... Oh, how extraordinary! Enelle claps her hands, interrupting Aldris to utter her exasperation. You must have read my mind, Dwayne. It's Dran! He sneers through clenched teeth, but the venerable female just ignores him. You know, I think I've forgotten to eat lunch today. I am quite peckish. Had not for my neck, I would lose my head. She chuckles softly and then focuses on the chief, genuflecting as deeply as she can, considering her age. Despite taking a shallow dip, she still did so with much more grace and respect than the other two elders could ever muster. My chief. Enelle? The chief returns the gesture with a nod of acknowledgement, and the elder female looks back to her friends. Shall we go to our table, then? If memory serves me well, it was... We're not going to the damn table. We'll be standing. Standing? Whatever for? Enelle blinks, but Aldris waves at her with a paw. Never you mind. She snaps, looking at the chief with growing anger, but all I can think of is that poor ancient female dragged through the town by that heavy-pawed brute. Well, that's a shame. My knees are not what they used to be, and Mother always said it's bad form eating upright. No, I cannot take this anymore. I simply stand up and walk towards the female, gently slipping my hand underneath her arm to everyone's surprise. Oh, hello there, dearie. What is he doing? Why is he touching her? Aldris nearly rushes me, but Enelle stops her with a risen paw. It's quite all right. No harm done. I remember him. He's that cheeky little devil from the villa. I wonder what mischief is he up to now. She smiles, patting my hand. I smile back and nod towards the table, leading her to my spot and helping her take a seat. I can hear Aldris's heavy breathing as she gets more and more infuriated, reminiscent of an old steam locomotive. Now that I think about it, a proper zoological term for a female canine would be a bitch, which I guess means one would be perfectly justified in calling Aldris an old, fat bitch. Ah, Moon, bless you, child. You didn't needn't have. Actually, I have. I wouldn't be able to sit here watching you stand. Besides, it allows me to do what I wanted to do in the first place. As I'm about to leave, taking a long U-turn around the table, I hear Aldris's heavy breathing erupting into another shouting spree. So, she can sit, but not us! What can I do? Not my fault the ape doesn't understand us. Yeah, fuck you, bitch, I'm a dumb ape. Besides, likewise, it's not much of a difference anyway. Regera shrugs, and I struggle to contain another satisfied smirk at her jabs. But now the hag is growling outright, showing her teeth on full display, and I can't help myself. I might not be here to serve tonight, but to piss her off, I'll do one better. I grab the spare goblet and fill it up with wine, bringing it back to Enelle, who takes it with both surprise and gratitude. I see it at the time. Everyone liked that. Why, thank you. It's just what I needed. Feels like I've been in a forced march. Yeah, I saw. I walk back around the table with a gratified smirk and take my rightful spot beside Rannick, who showers me with proud gazes. Seeing she's making a spectacle of herself, the pudgy female shakes her head and paws almost as if dismissing the whole thing. Right, let's get this started. Where's the rush? The chief asks in a slightly mocking tone. They've just returned. Let them at the very least get some refreshments first. Very well. Aldris grumbles in annoyance and crosses her arms while everyone returns to simply enjoying their meals. Rannick takes the opportunity to pour me a glass of wine, giving me a tender smile. Since I left my previous plate on the other side, he motions to the array of meals in front of us, and I simply nod towards some roasted potatoes and ham. The wolf sets up a generous portion, drowning it all in a handsome amount of gravy, and I cannot help but lick my lips in anticipation. As he sets the plate in front of me, the chief leans in, looking at us in confusion. Why are you serving him? Regera said he looks too scrawny. Rannick shrugs and I nearly choke on my wine. That he does! The female nods, raising her cup towards mine, and I do the same. He's been eating little ever since I found him. If I won't set him a portion, I'm afraid he'll starve himself to death. Peculiar. The male sounds intrigued, but quickly dismisses it and turns to his friend. Is that new? Enelle pokes the overgrown female on the arm, pointing to a clearly visible fresh wound. I'm sure it wasn't there the last time we saw each other. Yup, a memento of my very first battle. Regera pumps up her chest, responding with pride in her voice. Ah, you'll learn to cherish it. The elder female nods, grabbing the rim of her shawl and dress, pulling down over her arm to reveal the upper chest. Here's my very own. An arrow wedged itself right into my shoulder blade. She points to a faded spot just underneath her collarbone. I'm no surgeon, but that one seems too close to heart for comfort, but Enelle seems happy with it. I'd show you my last one, but... She frowns teasingly, leaning in and whispering in a hushed tone. I'm afraid the setting isn't quite appropriate for such a thing. Our side of the table erupts in laughter. Even Vul lets out an amused chuckle. Ha! You're a damn legend, Enelle. I wish I had half of your tales to tell by the time my fur turns gray. I'll drink to that. The black male raises his cup, and we all take a toast in honor of the female. My, she must have been quite a character in her youth. Once we all take a sip, she smiles at us with slight pity. I wouldn't wish my life upon any of you, but I fear you will all get your fair share of misadventures soon enough. Her voice is quiet and somber. Her voice is quite somber and puts a damper on the jovial atmosphere. The wolves exchange confused glances, but the older female has already moved on. She turns her back to her standing friends and speaks up. Val, dearie, why don't you take a seat? This must be murder on your ankles. I'm Aldris! The pudgy female growls in annoyance. I can hardly contain a snicker at those misnaming antics. Oh, indeed, forgive me. Enelle shakes her head absent-mindedly and looks to the chief. Should we get the wards to fetch them some stools, at least? The male nods at the suggestion and signals Trist, who's scrambling between the far-off tables. I'm glad to finally see him, and as he rushes behind the screen, I try to give him an encouraging smile, but I think he's too busy to notice. He eventually returns with Leaf at his side, both bringing a small stool each for the old wolves to sit on. They're not exactly quite right, though, almost as if they were meant for pups. And considering the pavilion is built on a platform, the seated elders look now comically low in comparison. Aldris and Dran feel like kids sent to the principal's office, and the humor isn't lost on the chief, who immediately erupts in laughter. Ha! You must look like you're put on a trial. You sure you wouldn't be more comfortable at your own table? You would love that, wouldn't you? The pudgy female sneers, rubbing her butt all over the stool to get more comfortable. Not really. You two are completely indifferent to me, if I'm to be honest. I just think you make yourselves look like fools. You always thought yourself witty, but you show for everyone to see the insult you inflict upon us, she replies in a risen voice, as to draw the attention of the nearby wolves and pointing towards Enelle. Why is it that she gets to sit at the table while we're treated? Again, I did not offer her a seat. Your quarrel is with the human, not me. The chief shrugs while the tiny female looks around with a worry and attempts to get up. I'm happy to give it up if it is any trouble. No, love, you stay where you are. Regera puts a paw on her shoulder, pushing Enelle back to her seat. This is the Alpha's table. Uther joins in an indifferent tone. Technically speaking, Enelle was an Alpha, unlike the two of you. 23 years and 89 days. The best time of my life. She nods with a smile, proudly recounting her tenure with said title. But while we may admire her accomplishments, the other two seem to take issue. Of course! You've always valued brute force over reason. Are they ever going to shut up? Regera whispers towards Vul, who only snorts in amusement, looking at Enelle with a risen brow. I don't understand how you've managed all those years. It's getting quite loud here, isn't it? She muses, again falling into her senile wolf act. I've been in 2 sieges in my lifetime. The female shrugs, pushing a glass towards the center of the table, clearly asking someone to refill her cup. Since this time she's away from my reach, it falls to Vul to do the honors. The siege weapons could do your head in. The endless rustle of chains and danking of wood, followed by the unthundering impact of the stone against the ramparts. We listen to her carefully as Vul fills her cup with the other two elders continue their quibble with the chief. But eventually it all blends into a buzz at the back of your mind. If you can survive that, any ruckus becomes just a backdrop. Did she just call them a background noise? Come to think of it, when you have better things to do, they do fade into the surroundings perfectly. Almost like the crackling of the flames. Once you're used to it being there, it's barely noticeable. Are we going to start this hearing eventually, or is your intention to delay this until the... Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong voice, guys. Sorry about that. Are we going to start this hearing eventually, or is your intention to delay this until the morning? On the contrary, I don't want to hold you here in a minute longer than necessary. Just wanted them to have a moment's respite. He looks towards both Rannick and Regera. You two feel refreshed? Both wolves nod, and the chief waves his paw towards the towering female. In your own time, then, recount exactly what transpired out there. Regera bows respectfully and stands up. She clears her throat and nods towards Vul to refill her glass. Once the black wolf obliges, she hastily empties the goblet and gestures for another round. This time she keeps the filled cup in her paw, most likely to wet her lips as the story continues. When she's about to open her muzzle, dead silence falls over the grounds, and every wolf leans in to hear better. At first it seemed like nothing. The sharp forest floor and broken foliage, I assumed that it were perhaps poachers encroaching on our territory. Nothing major. I mean, it happened before. The female shrugs, and the gathered nod in agreement. We followed the tracks for a bit, only to find that the party was much larger than initially anticipated. Maybe 10 or 15 individual sets of tracks. If this was the case, why didn't you retreat to one of the outer packs? Dran interrupts her, and the female looks at him with some... Oh, it's Dran. If that was the case, then why did you retreat to one of the outer packs? Dran interrupts her, and the female looks at him with surprise. Because there was 14 of us there. I knew Delrin was nearby, and if there were intruders, I would rather not leave them uncontested. So you grouped then? The chief guesses, but the female shakes her head. No, before we even had a chance of change course, I saw a massive black cloud rise above the treetops. She points towards the forest surrounding the grounds, and many look in that direction. It was the thickest smoke I've ever seen, a column of ash and soot 300 feet tall. Hearing this, the gathered began murmuring between each other, clearly unsettled by the revelation. I knew that whatever Delrin was, he would have seen it too, wherever he was. So we set our course, hoping the other pack would converge on us there. Good call. Vithir nods in approval, while Regera takes a deep gulp of wine. Her eyes venture to the earth beneath her paws, and her jaw shivers a little as she struggles to recount the tale. I wasn't prepared to see what happened there. The intruders put an entire Lapine burrow to torch and sword. They took the young ones and butchered everyone else, including the livestock, while setting fire to everything around. This caused an outrage among the gathered, with many howls and screaming in anger, while Chief and Vithir exchange troubled gazes. I find my worried eyes venturing to Brannock, and the wolf tries to give me an encouraging smile, but I can see it's just a front. You are all right to be outraged. So are we. She downs the last contents of her cup and brings it back to Vul, who refills it without delay. We were outraged. We wanted vengeance. We wanted to pursue and catch whoever committed this atrocity. But if the fires were left unchecked, they would have spread. The bastards who started them did so on purpose, knowing full well it would be tied down trying to stop this inferno. What voice did I do for... Oh, Burrow. Which? Please. I noticed Trist approach the table, toying nervously with his fingers, and I could see he's struggling to contain tears. My heart goes out to him, and I keep repeating to myself, please don't let it be his home. Tin Nan Krab. Regera responds with a wavering voice, and an audible sigh of relief escapes the brown rabbit's lips. Don't worry, Trist. Your family is safe. All your families are safe. She addresses the remaining bunnies, only to continue with a hushed, sorrowful voice. Can't say the same for these poor sods. She takes a shallow sip of wine. I close my eyes, giving thanks to whichever god has answered my prayer. Still, no one deserves such a fate, and despite the somewhat good news, most of the attendants are still understandably upset. Just as Trish told me a few days back, his people are always the ones who get hit by anything those wolves do. Who gives a rat's ass about the damned rabbits? Dran spits out with annoyance. Tell us what happened with my son. Tell us what happened to my son. Wait, son? Darwin arrived within a few hours of us. He was equally shaken by the devastation and rushed to our aid. Despite our efforts, it was clear that the fires wouldn't be taken out for a long while, giving the perpetrators enough time to escape with our people in chains. Again, the female is forced to take another sip. I can't believe she was able to maintain such good humor at the table, despite carrying such horror within. I'll pause it right here, guys. I've actually got to get ready for work soon. Got to edit some videos quickly and get a couple more out to you guys. Ugh. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to try and stop pausing in like the middle of like story events and such, but in this case I actually do have to go. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave a super thanks or a tip if you can. It always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!